tournament. Number 76, Ill Billy. 77, JC. 8888, Ben Hurt. 989, Ali Gately. And K0, Captain Cageman. And we'll take you over to Southern Discomfort Roller Derby's squad list today. In this game they are playing 101, Blitzkrieg. Number 13, Monsieur Furio. Number 14, Samdroid. 17, Berserker. 1 UP, Shrooms. Number 3, Sutton Impact. 33, Rolling Stoner. 380, Flat Track Bully. Number 515, Piston Broke. Number 6283, Spectral Aberration. 666, Reaper. 9OZ, Herbalicious. MI6, Ballistic Whistle. And X111, Nanaki. Now the Brummies are still warming up on the track. And we do have a few minutes before this game gets underway. We've had an immense tournament so far. Some wonderful games that we've had. The opening game, unbelievably close between Lincolnshire Rolling Thunder and their opposition, the South Wales Studios. And of course we've just seen Roller Derby Toulouse Quad Guards playing against the Pan Am squad. Again, a very close game to start off with. Toulouse Quad Guards and South Wales Soliers will be playing tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, so make sure you tune in for that. And the Lincolnshire Rolling Thunder and the Pan Am squad will be playing again later at 5 o'clock today.
Starting off with a very exciting couple of games. I don't know if any of you caught that very first game.
It was
the South Wales Soliers.
It was unbelievable.
An underdog victory over the Lincolnshire Rolling Thunder. That was absolutely edge of the seat, down to the last jam excitement.
Lead change followed by lead change throughout that whole game.
A very exciting game between the Quad Guards and Pan Am. At the halftime, the Pan Am was actually ahead, or they were ahead several times in the game, even though the Quad Guards did come out. And actually the predicted victory was achieved. But now we've got the Crash Test Brummies in the yellow, Southern Discomfort in the black. Jamming, that's Rex Tangle jamming for the Brummies, but Monsieur Furio, already lead jammer, hits the pack on his first scoring pass. Now the Southern Discomfort heavily favored in this game, and Monsieur Furio bouncing off of a shoulder check from Captain Cageman and getting through the back for a grand slam.
Rex Tangle really struggling there to get through, being constantly hit in and out, and now taken out almost by a referee as he comes on back in behind Ballistic Whistle.
Ballistic Whistle dropped back a little bit too far and was just out of play, and therefore Rex Tangle was able to come back in, but got the cutting the track later on. And now it's going to be a power jam for Southern Discomfort. Monsieur Furio already with 2 grand slams in his pocket. Coming into, he's on a power jam, and it just leaps right past Illbilly. Slam Fisher held him up in position for a good 5 or 6 seconds, but Monsieur Furio gets through. Now on his 4th scoring pass, 2nd scoring pass of this power jam. Sutton Impact moving up and just busts up a 3-wall of the Brummies. Monsieur Furio does the rest, knocking down Illbilly and out racing Super Nashwan through the pack. Gets point number 20 in the first jam. Scoring pass number 5, easily dodges around Slam Fisher, but slams into Captain Cageman, who knocks him out. Scrambles back in, but Monsieur Furio just not even worried about Southern Discomfort blockers as Rex Tangle comes back in. Immediately runs into a 4-wall. Spectral Aberration with a hip check. Drives Rex Tangle out of bounds, and it's 25 points now for the Southern Discomfort. Scoring pass number 6, but only a few seconds left. Just enough time for Monsieur Furio to get through the pack. But Rex Tangle still on his initial pass, is not going to get any points as the jam ends. Only 4 in that last scoring pass, so 29 points for Southern Discomfort after 1 jam.
Yes, a very, very tricky jam there for Rex Tangle. He was trying his best, but every time Spectral Aberration just right up in his face. We've got Reaper number 666 on the line for Southern Discomfort, facing up against Carnage, number 10 for the Crash Test Brummies.
Southern Discomfort down 1 blocker. That's Blitzkrieg in the penalty box on a low block penalty. So 4-on-3 pack advantage for the Brummies, but Reaper dodging back and forth and it speeds around the outside. Gets right past Riley Coyote, last line of defense for the Brummies. Lead jammer goes to Southern Discomfort. Carnage, the jammer for the Brummies, knocked out of bounds, recycles way past the pivot line. Gets back in clean. Looks like a multiplayer block against Alec Gately of the Brummies. That's going to even up the pack temporarily until Blitzkrieg returns to the back. But, oh, nope. Blitzkrieg comes back, but Roland Stoner gets a back block. So it's still 3-on-3. Reaper slips through the pack a second time. Grand slam on the first pass, 4 points on the second. So 9 points total. Southern Discomfort at 38 points. Crash Test Brummies still at 0. Clock says 26 and a half minutes left in the first.
We've got Ben Hurt on the line for Crash Test Brummies facing up against Nanaki. Now I know the Brummies were aware that this was going to be a tough game for them. But I'm sure they'll want to get some points on the board as soon as they can.
3-on-3 pack right now. Nanaki and Ben Hurt shoulder to shoulder, leaning into a scrum pack, but Nanaki blasts through on the outside lane, knocking down Truck Rogers. But there goes Ben Hurt, completing his initial pass, the first Brummie jammer to complete his initial pass. Nanaki is coming up on the pack, about 7 strides ahead of Ben Hurt. Calls off the jam, slams into his own teammate Shrooms, but does get all 4 points. Calls it off, and the Brummies still scoreless. Southern Discomfort at 42.
I'd just like to remind you again that the Men's Roller Derby Association is proud to be back in this inaugural Men's European Cup, and they wish all the teams competing the best of luck. We've got Rectangle back up against Ballistic for Southern Discomfort. This is Ballistic's first time jamming here in this game.
Ballistic whistle with a little engagement against Rectangle right off the whistle. Now driving up the inside line and gets through, avoiding Alec Gately, the last line of defense for the Brummies. He's lead jammer for Southern Discomfort. Southern Discomfort so far getting lead jammer every single jam. Rectangle bounces out of bounds off a shoulder from that Spectral Aberration, and Spectral is going to draw him back to turn 2.
I think Rectangle's going to find this tricky. He's coming up against a lot of his former Team England teammates in the Southern Discomfort lineups here. They know how he jams, so they're going to know how to close him down as well.
And he's got his work cut out for him. Southern Discomfort, as we said, heavily favored in this game. But so far, things going pretty much as expected. A hip check from Alec Gately sends Ballistic whistle out of bounds. He's got to recycle just a little kink in his plans, and now he gets revenge with a shoulder check. Doesn't take down Alec Gately though, but does barrel past Alec Gately with a little retaliation there. Well, it's not retaliation really. He just kind of got a
chasing through and determined to get him. Very determined.
He's gonna give as good as he gets, but nevertheless, Ballistic whistle getting through with another grand slam.
Rectangle being sent off there for a cut track just on the edge of turn 4. So this is a power jam again now to Southern Discomfort.
Grand slam number 4 for Ballistic whistle. Roland Stoner returning to the pack, so Southern Discomfort at full strength. 4-on-4 in the back, and a star pass from Ballistic whistle over to Roland Stoner with just about 20 seconds on the clock as Roland Stoner takes over as jammer. Another 5 points. Fresh legs, and Roland Stoner easily getting around. The pack has not moved from turn 1. Avoiding a slamming shoulder check from Riley Coyote, who takes himself out. He runs off that cliff and then eventually starts falling.
It's the classic phrase of get low for roller derby. Certainly helped out Roland Stoner in that last jam.
Yeah, I should have boned up on my Wiley Coyote, on my Roadrunner trivia references.
We've got Carnage on the jam line for the Crash Test Brummies again, and he's facing up against Monsieur Furio.
Scores 72 for Southern Discomfort. Crash Test Brummies still have yet to score. Carnage taking the jammer cap once again for the Brummies, and gets out for lead jammer, and the crowd goes crazy.
It's the first time that the Brummies have got lead jammer in this game. You can hear it. The audience are absolutely behind them on this one.
Monsieur Furio a half a lap behind, but Carnage ricochets off of a hip check goes flying into the air. Hip check from Blitzkrieg, touches the back of the pack, calls off the jam, and does not get any points. A scoring opportunity lost for the Brummies. The score remains 72-0.
Just before we line up for the next one, let me tell you a bit more about Enwee. Enwee's L range. It's Girl Time, the new line of protective gear especially designed for women by Enwee. We have Ben Hurt jamming for Crash Test Brummies up against Reaper for Southern Discomfort.
Brummies with a 4-wall. Reaper sweeping through the rear two. Runs. He has to work to get past Riley Coyote and JC. JC last line of defense for the Brummies, but Reaper gets lead jammer once again. With Ben Hurt, gets it cutting the track as he leaves the pack. So he's going to come back in still on his initial pass. Reaper on his first scoring pass, bounces off a hip check from Riley Coyote and has to recycle all the way back to turn 2. Riley Coyote moves forward again, runs into a flat track bully as Reaper slides by him, bounces off of Gately, completes the pass for 5.
And the referees are certainly being kept on their toes today. We'd like to give a shout out to Metal Ed, who is now playing his 200th game as a referee in this game here. He is the jam referee for the Crash Test Brummies.
Another grand slam for Reaper of Southern Discomfort. Southern Discomfort, of course, in the black, Brummies in the yellow. Ben Hurt coming out of the penalty box, still on his initial pass, and instantly into the molasses. I don't know what the marsh or
treacle.
I guess you call it peat bog.
Yes.
I don't know.
He's stuck behind that wall of black. In
Louisiana, we call it a swamp, but you know, around here. Okay, a bog. Is that what we're going with? Okay.
Ben Hurt manages to break through. That was a solid wall that he had to get through there from Southern Discomfort.
For vivid imagery. We're painting a picture with words. Well. And that picture right now not looking too good for the Crash Test Brummies, but pretty much as expected. They are pretty much the bottom-seeded team coming into this, not even expecting, as you said, not even expecting to come to the tournament. So anything at all against Southern Discomfort is going to be a victory, for a moral victory for the Crash Test Brummies.
Absolutely.
But Southern Discomfort at 91 points, 20 minutes remaining in the first.
Just got an official timeout happening right now, but Nanaki is lined up for Southern Discomfort on the jam line. Crash Test Brummies yet to field a team. They're just having a little bit of a team talk whilst this official timeout is taking place. Whilst we've got a pause again here, let me give you some more details about one of our sponsors, Double Threat Skates, roller derby skate shop based in central London and run by London roller girls Kristen Lee and Gorgasm. Check them out at www.doublethreatsskates.co.uk.
That was an official timeout called by head referee Mistrial. Now we're reforming again. We've got Nanaki jamming for the Southern Discomfort against Carnage in number 10 in the yellow jersey for the Crash Test Brummies.
He's also got the face paint on, and I know he had a big decision to make before coming into this this European Cup as to whether or not to actually use the face paint. But he's gone for the face paint for this game, so quite easy to pick out. Carnage.
Well, Nanaki in short order, getting lead jammer. Carnage slipping up the outside. Kristen Broke was there, but was unable to connect solidly with that hip check. Carnage slipping right by, but does not get around in time, not even close. Nanaki calling off the jam.
I believe Carnage was almost on 2 wheels per skate trying to get past that outside line there. That was unbelievable. Reaper calling it off here on turn number 1.
Well, he is, I believe, only the 2 out of 3 of the times that the Brummies have gotten their jammer out. It's been Carnage. And in fact, the only lead jammer so far for the Brummies was Carnage.
Indeed. Rectangle back on the line for the Brummies, up against Ballistic Whistle. Ballistic taking an absolute battering to start off with. Brummies are determined not to let him through.
And he gets caught right at the front of the pack by Alec Gately. Back block called. And Ballistic Whistle going to the penalty box. So it's going to be a power jam for Rex Stengel. Let's see if he can capitalize on this opportunity. Spectral Aberration and Roland Stoner holding on. Now it's Sam Jordan, flat track bully. Roland Stoner also in there in the mix as a 3-wall. Spectral Aberration dropping back to bridge. Rex Stengel does a pirouette up the inside, gets out, and lead jammer for only the second time for the Crash Test Brummies. But that took about half of Ballistic Whistle's penalty to do so. Now on a scoring opportunity, this could break the seal on the Brummies score.
The pack has sped up quite a lot. Ballistic Whistle is standing, but the Brummies have managed to slow it down again. Rex Stengel is looking, he is
Spectral
passing.
Aberration has dropped back to bridge. Now Roland Stoner and Sam Droid also. It's just flat track bully. No, Roland Stoner moving up, making it a 2-wall. Rex Stengel steps out of bounds and calling off the jam now. Ballistic Whistle. he was asking for an out of play, and JC was about a quarter lap ahead of the pack. So very likely, yes, there he goes. Out of play penalty on JC. But 5 points for the Crash Test Brummies. They are on the board.
They are indeed. The audience are absolutely loving the fact that the Brummies are breaking into the scoring now. 95-5 to the Crash Test Brummies, so they do have a long way to go. But I'm sure they're pleased with those points they've got. Ben Hurt now for the Brummies up against Monsieur Furio for Southern Discomfort. And Ben Hurt picks up lead jammer.
Lead jammer again. The Brummies somehow pulling out some surprise moves. Monsieur Furio getting past Captain Cageman, aka KG, number KO in the yellow. But Ben Hurt hitting the pack on his first scoring pass. Just wants to dip in. Don't know. He does get 2 points. Just got his hips ahead of 2 of the Southern Discomfort blockers. Puts 2 on the board, calls it quits. That's going to make it 7 points total for the Crash Test Brummies. Southern Discomfort at 95, just under 17 minutes remaining in the first.
Yep, I think the Brummies are going to try and build upon the fact that their skaters are less known. So they've got some hidden gems there in their team that they want to try and get out there and expose now in this game. Carnage again on the jam line for the Brummies up against Reaper. And Reaper dives easily up that inside line, sees that space available and goes for it.
Puts it into turbo and sneaks up that inside lane untouched. Lead jammer. Carnage getting away from Spectral Aberration, completes his initial pass, but half a lap behind Reaper, who makes short work of that outside lane. Tears it up, gets the 4, calls it off. Once again, nothing for the Brummies. So it's 99-7 with 16 minutes in the first.
Just give you a few more details of some of our sponsors here. Let me tell you about Rydell Skates. They have unmatched quality, unmatched performance. You can check them out at www.rydellskates.com. Ben Hurt on the line for the Crash Test Brummies, facing up against Nanaki. Nanaki in the red shorts.
Nanaki is being repelled so far on the inside lane. A slam Fisher and I can't tell at all.
Illbilly's holding him back as well, yes.
Illbilly, Slam Fisher, Captain Cageman, and Super Nashwan. But cutting the track on Ben Hurt sends him to the penalty box as jammer for the Brummies. So Nanaki, the Southern Discomfort jammer, is lead and on the power jam.
Yep, Southern Discomfort there trying to hold back a goat in the Brummies lineup, unable to do so. Nanaki's taken down to the floor, quite a heavy hit by Illbilly. But Nanaki's back up on his feet, knocked out again to the inside, takes himself around the back, and there is a dive there from Sutton Impact over his own blocker. Piston broke, desperately trying to get ahead to make sure they're in the right place. Nanaki picking up 5 points there for Southern Discomfort.
Only 2 blockers on the track and no jammer for the Brummies. Southern Discomfort at full strength, but here comes Ben Hurt out of the penalty box on his first score, on his initial pass. Nanaki already with 10, coming into the pack on his 3rd scoring pass. Runs into Super Nashwan and Illbilly. Now it's Slam Fisher and Illbilly while trying to hold Nanaki in the back. Sudden Impact comes in, shoulder check Slam Fisher, but Illbilly is able to get Nanaki out of bounds. The Southern Discomfort jammer has to recycle.
Ilbilly doing a really good job there of offense, instantly into the offense for his jammer straight after taking Nanaki out on that outside line, which was absolutely fantastic work there. And the Crash Test Brummies have taken a team timeout.
And Ben Hurt did complete his initial pass, just for the record, but did not get anywhere close to a scoring pass.
No. And that does seem to be the Southern Discomfort are very good at knowing when it's time to call it off. Really closing down on the Brummies, even when they do break, and they are starting to get a few breaks now, but they're not able to cut through and maximise on those. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Juice Wheels, the Martini series. They feature a dual-poured inner urethane core, allowing the running surface of the wheel to remain in contact with the floor longer. They're also available in 3 delectable flavours. And each of the 3 player awards in the European Cup today and tomorrow will get a full set of these Martini wheels. So thank you very much, Juice Wheels.
Score, Southern Discomfort 113, Crash Test Brummies 7, 14 minutes remaining on the clock.
Ballistic Whistle is on the jam line for Southern Discomfort, and it is Carnage taking the star again for the Crash Test Brummies.
I've just been informed we actually do have the scoreboard overlay on the feed. A great victory for Derby Duck.
Big thank you to Derby Duck for all the work they're doing here at the European Cup today and tomorrow.
Carnage, number 10, jamming for the Crash Test Brummies against Ballistic Whistle, who slips around the outside of Alec Gately, completing his initial pass, gets lead jammer. JC heading to the penalty box for the Brummies to join Slam Fisher. So 2 blockers and a jammer left for the Crash Test Brummies. Carnage still on his initial pass. Ballistic Whistle repelled on his first attempt to complete a scoring pass. This time dodges right by Alec Gately, the last line of defense for the Brummies, gets a grand slam.
And Carnage now broken his way through. He's broken for his initial pass. As Ballistic Whistle comes back round, takes a nice easy pass. His blocker's doing fantastic work there, making sure he had no form of wall or blocking to actually work his way through.
Ballistic Whistle picking up 4 more on that second scoring pass, calling off the jam with plenty of time. So 9 points in the jam. That brings Southern Discomfort to 122 points. Yep. Which you already knew because you can see it on the video feed.
We have Rectangle on the line for the Crash Test Brummies up against Monsieur Furio for Southern Discomfort Roller Derby.
Monsieur Furio looking at the outside lane. That was Shrooms, number 1 up, knocking away 2 of the blockers, Ilbilly and Captain Cageman. So a nice wide open outside lane. Monsieur Furio this time dodging past JC, very agile skater. He and Ballistic Whistle are always just, it's hard to determine which one is the most agile or fast skater out there. Of course, Southern Discomfort just loaded with talented jammers. Half of their team could easily put on the jammer cap at any point and deliver some points for the team. Indeed,
they are a very, very well-practiced and well-trained team. They work very well together. Crash Test Brummies, Rectangle, their jammer, has been sent off for a cut track, so they are, Monsieur Furio is on a power jam. We've just been given some information that SDRD actually only play with 2 set packs. They do not change those packs. The only skaters that change are the jammers. So their packs are very, very used to working together and who they're working with. It does seem to be working in their favour as Monsieur Furio picks up another 5-point pass, taking Southern Discomfort's jam score today in this jam to 10, 152-7 for the Brummies.
Rectangle standing up and now leaving the penalty box just ahead of Mr. Furio, moves into a defensive stance. Mr. Furio, though, simply calls off the jam. He'll settle for 15 in that jam.
I do believe we've had just a little bit of a knock take place against Slam Fisher, who is in the centre receiving some medical treatment there. Our big thank you to our medical technicians, Event First Aid Cover Cheshire, who are just attending now to Slam Fisher.
Okay, he seems to be holding something to his face, so it may have got accidentally slammed into his shoulder, or unfortunately we don't have a replay, but then again,
no, we don't.
We don't always want to replay everything.
What's really, really telling about the sport of roller derby is that SDRD's blockers and their jammer were straight in there to make sure he was all right as much as his own team. So it's just, you know, the level of respect that teams have for each other is huge in this sport.
And we have a minor safety issue that's going to hold up the jam, the next jam briefly. We have that is a bloody nose. Of course, so there is actually blood on the track, which the medical professionals are going to clean up properly.
Yep, making sure it's done in a very safe manner. And of course, we're keeping an eye out for our referees' safety as much as our skaters' safety. So again, whilst we have a little pause in the action here, let me remind you that the Men's European Cup is not the only games that are taking place, big world games that are taking place this year. We also have the 2014 Roller Derby World Cup being held in Dallas, Texas this December. 30 countries, 4 days, 3 tracks. You can get your tickets online. For more information, go to Roller Derby World Cup, all one word, .com. Now, the 2011 Roller Derby World Cup was absolutely amazing, and they had only half that amount of teams. So the World Cup this year, 30 countries, that is going to be something absolutely epic. Both teams ready to field as soon as this game is ready to restart again. But we are making sure that that is completely cleared up, safe and dry for our referees. The last thing we want to see is a referee taking a spill now as well because of an injured skater. So thank you very much to our officials who are making sure that this is a safe game.
But Slam Fisher is being attended to by the medics. It looks like the injury is restricted to the nose area. Yeah. But we'll keep you updated if there's any. Oh yes, well the jam. On a technical note, the jam was called off due to that injury, and therefore Slam Fisher will not be able to rejoin the game for a minimum of 3 jams. However, he's actually after that he's allowed to return as soon as he feels up to it, and he's cleared by medical, of course.
Yep, he's just given a thumbs up to his bench, telling them that he feels okay, but of course it will be the medicals stating whether or not he's suitable to return to track, as well as his own judgment.
Well, we've got a really nice crowd here. It looks like most of the seating is taken up, so there's a lot of enthusiasm for this men's derby. I think
there is indeed. I can see a heck of a lot of t-shirts out there from teams all around the country, and of course we've got the teams from France who've come over today. So some European team shirts out there. It's just a vast array of multicolours. If I tried to read them all out, I think I'd be here all day.
But yes, we do have 2 teams from France. So otherwise this would be the men's British Cup.
Yep.
Technically, all of the other teams from the United Kingdom.
Yep, and that game that we had earlier between the 2 French teams, Roller Derby Toulouse Quad Guards against the Pan Am squad. It was Toulouse Quad Guards who took that win. So they will be playing South Wales Ciliers tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. And Pan Am squad will be playing Lincolnshire Rolling Thunder later on this afternoon at 5. So make sure that you keep tuning in. Those games are going to be absolutely immense.
Oh, it looks like, well, I can see Slam Fisher actually has a cut above on the top of his nose. So not just a nosebleed, but so now it's actually a cut above his nose. Can't tell from here if there was any broken cartilage or anything like that, but a fairly serious injury, more serious than we're used to. Most of the time. Yeah,
he is being tended to as we speak.
But there really was quite a lot of blood droplets around the center of the track, so the medics taking very extra special care to make sure, you know, biohazard precautions.
Absolutely.
In effect, as always.
Absolutely. And of course, we have to make sure not only is it cleaned up, but it is dry. Any possibility of sliding or spillages is just too unsafe for skaters and referees.
That's right. They're playing on a gym floor, so basically. But I haven't seen any trouble with traction that I've observed at all. In fact, I've seen more trouble with falling with toe stops and trucks falling off the skates than with skaters slipping on the track.
I've spoken to a couple of the skaters. They absolutely adore this floor. All the teams that I've talked to are loving the floor here. It is the Walker Activity Dome, which is the home of Tyne and Fear, who will be playing later this afternoon, and also the Newcastle Roller Girls. We give you a shout out to Queens of the Sin Bin. They are the official merchandise sponsors of the Men's European Cup. For all your custom derby clothing, whether you're a skater, official or fan, Queens of the Sin Bin can meet your demands. Go visit them at queensofthesinbin.com.
Yeah, once again, we are in the middle of a official timeout. There was an injury to Slam Fisher, number 3E of the crash test Brummies. And we were clean. There was quite a lot of blood droplets, although he's relatively uninjured, mostly just an injury to the nose. No other appendages compromised. So hopefully he'll be returning as soon as as soon as the medics can get that blood stopped.
Yeah.
But it looks like we have everything cleaned up. Last little check up, maybe one drop of blood in the center of the track. There's a conference going on to decide whether that's blood or is that just leftover paint. The medic's gonna, he's gonna spray it up and wipe it off just to be sure. But,
just to be sure, we want to make sure. It could be ketchup, it could be red pen. Let's just get it up to make sure it's not blood. Better
safe than sorry, absolutely. But this is, so for about 7.5 minutes so far on the official timeout. But the skaters are ready to go, just as long as the all clear is given in the center of the track. And it looks like we've got a whistle, all clear from the head referee mistrial. We're ready to get started up again. As you can see from the screen, 1:57 for the Southern Discomfort, 7 for the Brummies, and 11 minutes remaining in the first period.
We have Reaper for Southern Discomfort on the jam line up against Carnage for the Brummies.
Reaper up to the front, one-on-one with JC, and breaks free. He's lead jammer. Carnage still on his initial pass, Spectral Aberration going to the penalty box. Drops Southern Discomfort down to 3 blockers. There goes Reaper through the pack, gets the grand slam, but Carnage completing his initial pass and hot on the chase.
There's a very good move there. Very good move there by Carnage, darting his way through.
And he picks up 2 points, steals 2 points, and only 1 point on the second scoring pass for Reaper. So a tiny moral victory on that scoring pass. Brummies actually winning that scoring pass, but losing the jam 6-2.
Some good work there. Carnage, again, I believe he is the only scorer for the Crash Test Brummies so far, so he's doing a fantastic work there as their main jammer. Ben Hurt now on the line for Crash Test Brummies up against Nanaki for Southern Discomfort.
Now Braveheart's over there.
Braveheart sat down in
the purple shirt right there.
He's played his game, he can have a rest now. Ben Hurt stuck behind his own blockers as much as the Southern Discomfort blockers, managed to dart his way around it and now pushing up against that Southern Discomfort. Matthew Sutton trying to take him out to the outside.
Ben Hurt bounces off the Sutton impact, but gets caught by Piston Broke, drawn back to turn 2 at the rear of the pack, taking another run at it, starting over from scratch. Nanaki, the jammer for Southern Discomfort, with nice juke around Super Nashwan, gets through for lead jammer. Ben Hurt following Sutton Impact. Sutton Impact turns around, just sees him in the blink of an eye, but so quick, such quick reflexes, gets the hip in the position, and Ben Hurt goes flying to the inside, has to recycle. So that was a remarkable display of reflexes from Sutton Impact.
Absolutely.
For Southern Discomfort. I didn't even think he was aware that Ben Hurt was behind him. And more bad news for the Brummies. Ben Hurt going to the penalty box on a cutting the track. That's a little sportsmanship from Piston Broke. As they pass by they're both going to the penalty box. So
it was a very sneaky move there by Shrooms and Spectral. Shrooms was hitting Ben Hurt out as Spectral Aberration ran back, so he picked up that cut.
That was a nice check by Red, White, and Bruise, knocking the Naki off of his skates. Has to recycle, but takes his time. He's going to go ahead and casually call off the jam. He's going to freeze the Brummy Jammer in the penalty box as Southern Discomfort's going to field a new one.
We've got Ballistic Whistle on the line for Southern Discomfort. As we said, we've got Brummies starting in the penalty box. So Ballistic will have this as a power jam. He is up against the 4 Crash Test Brummy blockers. They do have 4 on the track, that's fantastic. Ballistic Whistle stuck now behind that solid yellow wall. His blockers helping him through the middle there as he darts around the inside, looking for a space, taken down to the floor.
Have to give credit to Flat Track Bully for a pick, allowing that cut off half of the Brummies wall so that Ballistic Whistle only had to deal with the 2 on the inside. Greatly eased his passage through the Brummy defense. Here comes Ben Hurt, fresh out of the penalty box, dodges to the inside of Roland Stoner and exits the pack just ahead of Ballistic Whistle, who was on a scoring pass though. So only 4 points for Ballistic Whistle. However, all he has to do is pass Ben Hurt, but he's not going to do it. Ben Hurt gets into the pack. It was a scoring pass. Ballistic Whistle may have waited a shade too long, but we're waiting for the referee.
Ben Hurt has actually picked up a penalty there. It was an illegal procedure with that contact he made just after the whistle. So Southern Discomfort's Monsieur Furio is starting on a power jam on this one. I don't believe they picked up any points.
Well, I'm not. Did we catch what that illegal procedure was for? Do we have any idea?
It was contact after the whistle, so he'd hit into contact after the 4th whistle.
And no points report. Well, the Crash Test Brummies at 9 points now. There was 2 points scored just a bit ago from Carnage, I believe it was.
Yes.
That's right. It was the 6-2 jam. So Brummies still at 9. No points in that jam. Now we've got Monsieur Furio blasting, hits the afterburners, and just goes flying through the pack like a rocket. Grand slam on the first scoring pass, still on the power jam. Ben Hurt standing up now leaving the penalty box along neck and neck with Captain Cageman. So Brummies back to full strength. Ben Hurt on his initial pass. Monsieur Furio coming in on his 3rd scoring pass. Tries to weave right between Ill Billy and Alec Gately, but they catch him. Now Super Nashwan on the outside, but Monsieur Furio too fast on the inside. Avoids a shoulder from Captain Cageman, gets through for another 5. 15 points so far in this jam for Southern Discomfort. Ben Hurt so far repelled by every attempt to get past the 4 wall. Now that is Berserker, Sudden Impact, and Shrooms. And there's Blitzkrieg up front, number 101. Stopping the last line of defense and now pushing Ben Hurt all the way to the rear of the pack. And now Sudden Impact takes over and a shoulder check sends Ben Hurt out of bounds.
Sudden Impact almost having a conversation there, trying to talk the jammer out of not going for him, but he does pick up an elbows penalty. And the Brummies jammer, Ben Hurt, is through on his initial pass.
But taking his time to get around. I don't know if he was winded or just demoralized from that absolute thrashing that he got trying to get through his initial pass. But he's going to come up empty. 25 points for Southern Discomfort, courtesy of Monsieur Furio.
These teams very, very clever. They know their work. They know how to play the game. So they're going to try and reserve as much energy as they can for the remainder of this game. Truck Rogers, number 25, first time jamming out for the Crash Test Brummies. He's up against Reaper for Southern Discomfort.
Reaper looking for the outside lane, knocks over JC, and too fast for David Shaw, number 23 of the Crash Test Brummies. The jammer goes to Southern Discomfort. Truck Rogers knocked out of bounds with Spectral Aberration going to the penalty box. That drops Southern Discomfort down to only 2 blockers. Flat Track Bully and Roland Stoner now in a tandem position, or also known as a country dance or a square dance block. But a wide open outside lane, a 4-on-2 pack, and there goes Truck Rogers.
He's on a power jam. There was a cut track there against Reaper, so Truck Rogers now on his scoring pass in this power jam.
Reaper went to the penalty box, so loses lead jammer. So now we have Truck Rogers On a scoring pass, flat track bully and Roland Stoner in the front. Sudden Impact moving in to guard the outside lane. Truck Rogers putting up a fight, but unable to make any headway. Now Spectral Aberration batters his way through the goat pen of the Brummies and gets up to join the other 3 blockers for Southern Discomfort.
Reaper has made his way back out from that penalty box, darting his way around through the Brummie walls there, and picks up 5 more points for Southern Discomfort.
Very fast feet, tremendous speed and acceleration from Reaper. Comes across with a shoulder into JC, but JC comes right back and knocking down Reaper. A low block on Spectral Aberration sends him to the penalty box, and a grand slam for Truck Rogers of the Brummies. Still 20 seconds remaining in this jam. It will go to its complete 2-minute duration. There goes Reaper coming through with another grand slam. So 10-5 so far, but Truck Rogers on his second scoring pass. Had to recycle back to turn 4 by Roland Stoner. Reaper comes in, scoring pass number 3. Gets all 5 points. Truck Rogers not getting any points on his second scoring pass. So a 15-5 jam favoring Southern Discomfort.
Do you need new wheels for your skates? Then check out skates.co.uk. All Derby wheels are currently sold with ABEC 9 bearings absolutely free. You can't say fairer than that. Skates.co.uk. And we have Rectangle back on the line for the Crash Test Brummies. Now the Crash Test Brummies do have a couple of international stars in their team. We already told you about Rectangle playing for Team England. Ilbilly was also in the Team England lineup. And Truck Rogers, who we've just seen doing a fantastic job jamming, he was on the Team Wales lineup at the Men's World Cup earlier this year.
Southern Discomfort calling their first team timeout. So that's 1 team timeout used by both teams. Clock frozen, as you can see on your screen, at 2 minutes 19 seconds in the first half.
We did have a very long time during that official timeout where the teams could recuperate as well, so they've only really needed to use 1 timeout each. Crash Test Brummies eager and raring to go. They're already on the track. Rectangle keeping himself warm. And we have Nanaki, who will be taking the Jammer Star for Southern Discomfort Roller Derby. We haven't got our Twitter feed up and running just yet, but do please keep sending in tweets. As soon as it's up and running, we'll be able to tell you about those tweets that are coming through. So keep tweeting. Hashtag MEC.
Game coming up after this one, Tyne and Fear versus New Wheeled Order.
Make sure you tune in for that one. That should be another fantastic game. All the games we've had today, amazing games.
But Nanaki in short order, getting lead jammer once again for Southern Discomfort. Rectangle knocked out of bounds by Sudden Impact. And Sudden Impact and Spectral Aberration teaming up. And they're backed up by Piston, Grove, and Rectangle sadly picking up a cut track there. Just cut track forced on him by Spectral Aberration, so it is a power jam for Nanaki. Second scoring pass, already has a grand slam. Now runs into Alec Gately and Red, White, and Bruise. Squeezes up the outside. Nanaki comes up with a second grand slam. 10 points so far. Only 3 blockers on the track for the Crash Test Brummies, and they have been split in half by that Southern Discomfort solid 4 wall. Southern Discomfort setting up a goat pen. JC of the Crash Test Brummies struggling to get up to join his teammates. But so it's going to be Southern Discomfort picking up 3 more, so total of 13 in that jam. We've just got a little over a minute remaining in this half. Scores 229 to Southern Discomfort and 14 to the Crash Test Brummies. Crash Test Brummies Rectangle starting in the penalty box. Southern Discomfort starting on a power jam with Ballistic Whistle. 4 on 4 in the pack. Ballistic Whistle drives straight up the center and just powers through right past Captain Cageman and David Shaw. Lead jammer to Southern Discomfort, but Rectangle back on the track as jammer for the Crash Test Brummies. Ballistic Whistle on his first scoring pass, gets around Rectangle. Rectangle behind a 4 wall. That is just
It's a very solid wall
yeah,
there.
Very solid wall. Rectangle though, just spinning around, gets past Roland Stoner. Flat track bully was unable to catch him going into turn 3, but he's not going to get around in time. 4 more points picked up by Ballistic Whistle. Total of 9 in that jam, and it is halftime.
The score is 238 to Southern Discomfort Roller Derby, 14 to the Crash Test Brummies. Not what we expected. We probably expected the Brummies not to be getting quite so many leads and breaking through the pack quite as much. I think they've done an absolutely sterling job. As we said earlier, they weren't expected to be getting very far in this tournament as the wildcard last-minute entry into the Men's European Cup. So some fantastic play there, especially from Carnage, who's done some really good job getting the leads, getting the points for the Brummies, and does some solid work there from their blockers as well.
Indeed, but that takes us into halftime. We'll be back in about 15 minutes to start the second half.
And welcome back to the second period of Southern Discomfort Roller Derby, playing against the Crash Test Brummies here as part of the Men's European Cup.
Also warming up on the track is Tynan Fear and New Wheeled Order. They're getting ready to play after the second half of Southern Discomfort versus the Crash Test Brummies.
So make sure you keep tuning in to watch that game as well.
All right, but first half pretty much went as expected. Southern Discomfort highly favored over Crash Test Brummies. Crash Test Brummies just barely making it in, actually as a surprise when the Inhuman League was unable to attend.
That's right.
So did not even expect to be here. So just had a short notice, and now coming in, of course, as the lowest seeded team, going up against Southern Discomfort, perennial favorites in just about every matchup they've ever been in.
Absolutely. So some fantastic work from the Brummies, managing to get 14 points in that first half. Especially from Carnage, who has been jamming solidly for them, and Truck Rogers, who got some points in towards the end of that first half. Southern Discomfort having their ream of jammers, including Monsieur Furio, who's currently on the jam line for them. He is up against Carnage. And Monsieur Furio picking up lead jammer backwards as he comes out of the pack.
He spun around to get past a hip check and just decided to keep on going backwards. And this time, taking a little chop off of the infield, also known as leaping the apex. Technically, the apex is the top of the turn. I'm sorry, math degree. I'm a math nerd.
Carnage managing to force his way past Spectral Aberration and finding it easy to get past the rest of that, has made his initial pass and is now out on a scoring pass. A cut track for Monsieur Furio means that this is a power jam for Carnage. So he's going to do his best to make sure he can now pick up some points. This is a scoring pass that he is on.
Carnage slamming into flat track bully, repelled out of bounds, and finds the inside lane only to catch Spectral Aberration. Has to recycle back again. Spectral Aberration has to recycle himself to avoid, and ducks under a hip check from Sam Droid. Gets out a 4-point pass, and no pass, no penalty. And therefore only 4 out of potential 5. And the power jam ends as Monsieur Furio leaves the track, but he gets out, he comes back in front of the pack, so he's going to take a full lap around, slams into Ill Billy, somehow stays on his skates, but Ill Billy stays in front. Now drives a shoulder, but Monsieur Furio dodges around, only to get caught by a hip check from Captain Cageman.
Carnage took very slow to get back up from the hit to the outside line that he took earlier. Definitely taking his time to get back on track.
And it looked like the two jammers decided to have a conference and kind of a flag of truce between the two jammers temporarily as they both come back, and now it is off, immediately engaging each other. Mr. Furio to the outside, getting past his teammates to run into a 3-wall at the front. Carnage gets nowhere, but it looks like both jammers getting 3 points in that scoring pass, but Crash Test Brummies only coming up with 7, Southern Discomfort with 8.
Yeah, both teams there towards the end were trying to recycle the opposition jammer back. This did result in a out-of-play penalty for Illbilly, so he got skating out of play. He will be starting in the penalty box, but Crash Test Brummies have Truck Rogers back on the jam line. He's up against Reaper for Southern Discomfort.
Southern Discomfort in the rear position. A shoulder check from Truck Rogers off the line. The Reaper somehow stays in on one skate and just drives it home, slamming the shoulder into the Crash Test Brummies wall, gets through for lead.
Truck Rogers there trying to take that inside line with some offense, but sadly Southern Discomfort's blockers were too much for his offensive player, let alone the jammer getting through there as well. Truck Rogers being recycled back and back by Sutton Impact.
Sudden Impact and Shrooms as well. Truck Rogers making another run at it, still on his initial pass. Reaper on his second scoring pass at the front of the pack. Runs into number 35, Riley Coyote, who puts up a fight, but Reaper's gonna keep it moving. Just pile drives his way past. Gets a grand slam. 10 points for Southern Discomfort. Truck Rogers of the Brummies just barely avoids a hip check from Sutton Impact, and that is much easier said than done. Sutton Impact, such just a precision blocker, and really his head always in the game, knows where he needs to be.
Absolutely.
And just so agile on his skates. It's just a remarkable blocker that Southern Discomfort has.
Indeed, especially when he's facing towards you. And I must say, it's a good job I do know his face, because I've seen his face more than I've seen the back of his shirt today. So some fantastic work there from Truck Rogers jumping around Sutton Impact.
And whenever I see Sutton Impact's face, I always ask myself, where's the monocle? Why isn't he wearing his monocle?
The Team England monocle. We have Rex Merriment, who is the first time jamming for the Crash Test Brummies. He's up against Ballistic Whistle, who has already picked up lead jammer for Southern Discomfort.
Rex Merriment looking like he's doing a disco dance at the back of the pack. He was just back and forth, and a little bit of shoulder action.
It's a shimmy going through there. Ballistic Whistle picking up a 5-point grand slam. Rex Merriment being recycled back by Spectral Abrasion. Spectral Abrasion really good at getting jammers off and taking them back.
Ballistic Whistle on his second scoring pass, and just dives past a shoulder into JC, sends him reeling, and then he's too fast for Captain Cageman. Gets through the second time. 10 points so far for Southern Discomfort. Rex Merriment, the jammer for the Brummies, trying to get past Spectral Aberration. No can do. Drops back. Herbie Licious and Roland Stoner get in front of him. Flat track bully covering the center.
The Southern Discomfort boys doing such a fantastic job, all four of them constantly recycling around Rex Merriment. So even if he passes one, he's got 3 more to get past. They're holding him back whilst their fourth blocker gets back around again. So it's a constant tumble dryer of blockers that he's trying to get through. Ballistic Whistle, another 5 points there on the board for Southern Discomfort.
20 points so far for the gentleman in black, Rex Merriment. Now has to get past Herbie Licious in direct contact, but he is flanked by Roland Stoner and Spectral Aberration. Roland Stoner delivering the coup de grace. Hip check knocks Rex Merriment out of bounds. He has to come back in at the back of the pack. Starting over from scratch, Ballistic Whistle breezes by, very little contact, and comes up with 30 so far. 7 seconds left in the jam, just enough time for Ballistic Whistle to potentially come through one more time. Calls off the jam, although I don't know if there was even any time left, but does come up with 35 for Southern Discomfort. Rex
Merriment almost acting as a 5th blocker there instead of a jammer, as a timeout. Oh no, sorry, a penalty there being issued on Rex Merriment. It is now a power jam for Southern Discomfort. Monsieur Furio taking that power jam. Rex Merriment, it was a low block that was issued.
So 4 on 4 though in the pack. Monsieur Furio looking furious.
Taken low.
Furious because that's his name. Now too fast on the outside. Alec Gately trying to make contact, but Monsieur Furio breaks free. Lead jammer for Southern Discomfort. Now a battle in the pack. It's like Red, White, and Bruise stuck in the Southern Discomfort goat pen.
Oh, and
Furio driving past Rectangle.
Indeed.
Gets the 5.
Sorry, Rectangle there trying to use his own jammer skills to stop Monsieur Furio. Southern Discomfort were doing a very good job. Oh my goodness! A backwards jump around the straight by Monsieur Furio.
I think he actually bent his own body like Beckham.
I think he bent space and time. That was brilliant. Again, that was 2 5-point Grand Slams Monsieur Furio taking there. Some wonderful display of skating from him here in this, wearing the jammer panty.
Furio comes out with a low block. That means it's a power jam for the Brummies. Rex Merriman is back on the track, returning from that low block penalty he started the jam with. Takes the jammer cap off of his head, attempts to pass it to his pivot, but that did not work out so well. Now Ali Gately going to the penalty box.
Rectangle has got the jammer panty as he darts his way around. Unfortunately, taking himself out, keeps himself down.
And he collapsed. That was a very close. If he had not gotten his knees touching the floor, then potentially could have been called for a technical cut.
Indeed.
That's all it takes to come back in and on your toe stop with your knees an inch above the floor.
In the meantime,
that
wow.
would potentially be a cutting the track on a technical note, but so that was a fast thinking by Rectangle to collapse into a ball, the huddled mass on the floor.
In the meantime, Monsieur Furio taking 10 more points there, doing almost the same move twice around the track, getting low on this corner nearest to us here and getting underneath the Brummies blockers. Southern Discomfort taking their lead up to 318 points, playing 21 to the Crash Test Brummies. Don't forget the Men's Roller Derby Association is proud to be backing this inaugural Men's European Cup, and they wish all the teams competing the best of luck. Thank you to the MRDA for their support in this tournament this weekend. Yes. Reaper on the line, facing up against Carnage.
And an empty penalty box. 5 on 5 on the track. Carnage to sneak attack on the inside lane, gets lead jammer. And listen to the crowd.
They're absolutely behind him. Ill Billy trying to psych out Reaper. It doesn't work. Reaper. Oh, Reaper does.
Just grazes the inside of the track and gets a technical cut. It's a power jam. Lead jammer goes to Carnage, and he's on the power jam, gets through. It's a grand slam for the Brummies.
He has a massive smile on his face now, Carnage, as he comes back around for another scoring pass.
Scoring pass number 2. Southern Discomfort lined up. They've got a 3-wall with Roland Stoner on the tail end. Just the Carnage moving in, shoulder into Spectral Aberration, dodges around him, runs into Roland Stoner. JC just...
Carnage keeping himself in.
On a piggyback ride. Actually, I think he may have actually been holding his jammer, giving him something to brace against so that he could better stay in bounds and avoid a cut in the track. Interesting tactic from... I don't know if that was intentional or not, but an interesting idea for a tactic. It's not an actual tactic.
Yep.
But, however, Crash Test Brummies do get there for the first time, getting 2 scoring passes in, 8 points total, where they actually scored.
Yes.
They did get one where they were approaching on a second scoring pass, actually got in, but didn't actually score any points in that second scoring pass. So 8 points to nothing.
Ballistic Whistle
coming up empty.
Ballistic Whistle on the jump line, just darting underneath his own blocker's arms whilst they try and hold back Truck Rogers, the jammer for Crash Test Brummies.
Cutting the track on Ballistic Whistle. And that means there's another power jam. Truck Rogers getting recycled by Sutton Impact. Comes back in, staring down a 4-wall. There's Ill Billy trying to open up the inside lane, but Truck Rogers goes through the outside. Sutton Impact is there, guarding the outside lane, sends him spinning, and Truck Rogers recycling back to the pivot line. Sutton Impact drawing him back as far as possible. Now inverted, coming in across with a shoulder, sends him out of bounds. Instant replay, and Sutton Impact almost single-handedly shutting down this power jam.
Indeed, Ballistic Whistle has made his way back onto the track, and Truck Rogers has not been able to progress the pack forward any further than that first turn in that 30-second penalty. Some brilliant blocking there from Sutton Impact. Ballistic Whistle back on, forcing his way up at the front there.
Truck Rogers sent out on a cutting the track No pass, no penalty, but then again, Ballistic Whistle had already served a penalty in this jam.
Yeah.
So no lead jammer. Ballistic Whistle now on his first scoring pass. Ballistic Whistle comes off a shoulder from Illbilly, hops back in, just taps right behind Illbilly, and before Illbilly could react, he's off to the races and gets out of the pack, a grand slam for Southern Discomfort.
20 more seconds in this jam. It will run to the end, as both jammers have been to the penalty box.
Only 13 seconds remaining in the jam.
5 more points there for Ballistic Whistle, just using his shoulders to barge his way through. Now asking his team to work with him whilst he tries to get a few more points in these last few seconds.
Ballistic Whistle does get into the back on scoring pass number 3. 3 more points, 13 points total for Southern Discomfort. And Crash Test Brummies coming up with the donuts.
Let me tell you a little bit about the Juice Wheel Spiked series. The Spiked series features a banded edge technology, providing grip and roll at an affordable price. Compression on your stroke drives energy into the band, and then it expands it during the roll, giving you that added punch. Available in 3 punchy flavors. Thank you to Juice Wheels. Rex Merriment back on the jam line for the Brummies, facing up against Monsieur Furio, number 13 for Southern Discomfort.
Only 2 blockers to stop Monsieur Furio. It's JC and Captain Cage, man.
They did quite a good job of holding him back for a little bit longer than you would expect with just 2 blockers against Monsieur Furio.
Almost 10 seconds. I think that's a record. But, JC diving down, now holding his head. It's difficult to tell, but Monsieur Furio looked like all clean contact. And whoa, Riley Coyote comes out of the penalty box, and Monsieur Furio immediately shoulder checks him down to the ground. Gets up to the front. Riley Coyote gets a little bit of payback, but Monsieur Furio is going to duck under the shoulder check, gets past him and Illbilly. Grand slam for Southern Discomfort. That's number 2, 10 points for Southern Discomfort so far.
Yep, Rex Merriment has indeed actually taken off his jammer panty back at turn 1, handed it to JC, who's now fought his way through with the jammer panty in his hand. He has picked up, however, a forearms penalty. So he is the jammer. He's in the penalty box as the jammer.
Haven't seen that many forearm penalties called so far in today that I've seen. Captain Cage, man, with a technical low block. Monsieur Furio stumbling a bit, but now bounces off a shoulder from Illbilly, completes the pass for another 5. 20 points so far.
Monsieur Furio, coming from the parkour background, he knows how to roll. When he takes a fall, he knows how to roll himself and bring himself back up. So he's able to take those hits and spring back up, straight back into action from that past history and experience he's got with parkour.
Now, JC for the Brummies was in the penalty box as jammer. He had officially received the star from and became the jammer as soon as he had it in his hand, but was in the penalty box, but was released just about a second before the whistle ending the jam. So a fresh jammer comes out. That's Ben Hurt for the Crash Test Brummies against the Reaper, who just pours the acceleration on, gets out lead jammer. Ben Hurt diving to the outside, runs into Shrooms of the Southern Discomfort as Reaper gets through untouched. Grand slam.
Some fantastic leg work there from Reaper. His long, thin legs bounding across, almost 2 simultaneous apex jumps helping him through there. And again, darting his way around that inside. Another 5-point grand slam for Reaper.
Reaper of Southern Discomfort in the black jerseys. Crash Test Brummies jammer in the yellow. Ben Hurt finally getting through his initial pass. Just ahead of Reaper, completing scoring pass number 3. Reaper calling it off for Southern Discomfort. 14 points total for the men in black. Nothing for the Crash Test Brummies.
I'm going to give you a bit of information now about Ennui. Ennui is a new concept of protective gear specifically designed for alternative sports and all non-motorized wheeled sports. Designed and run by skaters, our aim is to create protective gear that we would wear ourselves, products that keep us safe and protect our bodies against all sorts of injuries, while at the same time being unobtrusive and comfortable. Ennui skate gear.
Time out number 2 called by the Crash Test Brummies. They have 1 remaining. Southern Discomfort still with 2 timeouts left. Both teams with an official review remaining.
Don't forget the 2014 Roller Derby World Cup will be in Dallas, Texas this December. 30 countries, 4 days, 3 tracks. Get your tickets online. For more information, go to rollerderbyworldcup.com. Now I know JC for the Crash Test Brummies took himself off after that last jam, straight over to the medical assistants here. He's sat with them currently and is holding some gauze to his face, so I believe he's taken a knock to the face too. Yeah, so he's holding it to his nose. He is sat with the medical team, but he isn't receiving any further treatment. He's just sat with them whilst he's sorting himself out. We have Carnage on the line for Crash Test Brummies up against Ballistic Whistle for Southern Discomfort. Carnage knocked to the outside line by Ballistic Whistle, but Ballistic still stuck behind that Brummie wall as Carnage makes his way through and now meets up against the Southern Discomfort wall.
Hillbilly heading to the penalty box, drops the Brummies down to 3 blockers. Carnage surrounded by Southern Discomfort Black. Ballistic Whistle breaking free, he's lead jammer. Carnage running into Spectral Aberration, is picked off by Truck Rogers, but spins around, gets back in front of Carnage, the jammer for the Brummies, as Ballistic Whistle heads into the pack on his first scoring pass. Carnage looking over his shoulder. It looked like he was going to put on some defense, but Ballistic Whistle slipped right through the outside and waves bye-bye to Truck Rogers as he exits the pack, getting a grand slam. Carnage knocked out of bounds, the jammer for the Brummies. Has to recycle all the way to turn 4. Spectral Aberration is waiting for him. Oh, almost falls down as Carnage slips by, but only to run into a 2 wall of Sam Droid and Stoner. Roland Stoner, that is. Ballistic Whistle goes out of bounds. Illbilly follows him, but Ballistic Whistle had already recycled, so he comes right back in. But it comes up short behind Carnage, the Brummies jammer.
Indeed, the jammer trying to do some blocking work as well as jamming there, which is amazing work. And Carnage darting his way around, does a little pirouette, breaks out for the Crash Test Brummies. Ballistic Whistle currently at the back of the pack, and the Southern Discomfort blockers go in for some offense, but Ballistic has had enough. He's calling that jam dead.
Ballistic will come up with 4. That was good effort by David Shaw, number 23, who was the one who got Ballistic Whistle out of bounds going into turn 1. But Ballistic Whistle still coming up with 4 more. Total of 14 in that jam.
Double Threat Skates, roller derby skate shop based in central London and run by London roller girls Kristen Lee and Gorgasm. Check them out on www.doublethreatsskates.co.uk. We got Nanaki on the line for Southern Discomfort, facing up against Rectangle for the Crash Test Brummies.
And we've got a couple of Brummies that are close to penalty trouble. Illbilly's at 6 penalties right now. And JC, number 77, is at 5. So that's and 7 penalties means you have fouled out. So they have 2 players very close to fouling out. Southern Discomfort, no one even close.
Rectangle having a look back to see if Sudden Impact did indeed knock him out, but he has already stopped and come back. So he's recycled back out.
Yeah, Southern Discomfort with 1 skater at 4 penalties. That's Spectral Aberration, but no one else has more than 2. Nanaki, though, going to the penalty box. He's going to get a cutting the track, so maybe I spoke too soon. They might have 1 at 3. No, actually, that's Nanaki's very first penalty of the game. So,
yeah, the Southern Discomfort jammer has been incredibly clean in this game so far. Rectangle facing up against Matthew Sutton again, face to face.
Sudden Impact. I'm not sure what happened. I didn't see any, and I see a smile on his face as he comes in, and I think he's in shock that he wasn't able to draw a penalty. In fact, he is going to the penalty box. So.
Rectangle looking a little bit tired. I think it was that a flopping penalty that Sutton Impact. That's the first one I've seen on the new 2014 rules. Flopping.
And a star pass. Piston Broke taking the jammer star for the first time. Nanaki passing it over. Piston Broke into the pack on his first scoring pass. Ben Hurt at the back, holding it back, and a big smile on Piston Broke's face. I think that's either a smile or a grimace.
A little bit of both.
Probably a little bit of both. Yeah, pretty excited to have that jammer star on his head. He's going to put 1 point on the board. That's going to take Southern Discomfort to 10 points for the jam. The Crash Test Brummies coming up with 2.
As you said earlier on today, indeed, Southern Discomfort, their whole lineup is made of blockers who can easily jam, and it was proved just then in that last jam. Monsieur Furio taking the jammer star for Southern Discomfort up against Carnage for Crash Test Brummies.
That was David Shaw, falling small, but still gets sent off to the penalty box, and Carnage, very excited, exuberant, maybe a little prematurely, because Monsieur Furio right hot on his heels, breathing down his neck now, and dodges past. And the Southern Discomfort jammer almost sends Carnage spinning, but Carnage going to call off the jam, 0-0.
Let me tell you a little bit more about skates.co.uk. It's a Derby-owned online store which sells everything you need, whether you're fresh meat or a seasoned pro. With complete skates, wheels, protection and more, they've got you covered. Skates.co.uk. Just over 8 minutes left remaining in this half. Don't forget to check out Rydell Skates as well. Unmatched quality, unmatched performance. Check them out, www.rydellskates.com.
Ben Hurt falling down, and it's a technical low block as Piston Broke goes spilling over him. That'll be a power jam.
Power jam for Reaper.
Reaper up the inside past Red, White, and Bruise, but gets caught by Captain Cageman. Sent flying, but he steps out of bounds. So a big block from Captain Cageman and a cutting the track for Reaper. That's going to release Ben Hurt early. So about a 15-second penalty for Reaper. Short power jam for the Crash Test Brummies. Ben Hurt hits the pack, still on his initial pass. Blitzkrieg and Shrooms doubling up. Now Piston Broke moving in. Gets knocked down by a shoulder check. Picks himself back up.
And he is through.
There goes Ben Hurt, he is through. Of course, no lead jammer. Both jammers have gotten penalties in this jam.
Reaper, since being released from the penalty box, does manage to sneak up that inside line, picks up a 5-point Grand Slam pass for Southern Discomfort as Ben Hurt makes his way back up to that strong, solid wall there. Blitzkrieg trying to knock him out to that outside. He has been recycled back really well by Shrooms.
He is on a scoring pass, though.
Reaper almost doing the splits to make sure he doesn't take another cut track penalty.
Reaper on his second scoring pass and a big leap across the inside. He gets only 4. Ben Hurt on his first scoring pass gets knocked out of bounds by Berserker.
Piston Broke looking a little bit confused as to why he's received another star pass, but a smile on his face nonetheless. Looks like Southern Discomfort trying to just mix it up a little bit here.
Piston Broke saying, "Why are you guys picking on me? Now I gotta skate fast." But up front now, they were a little bit separated, but now Blitzkrieg moving in, try and open it up. Piston Broke not real happy about that distance, it looks like. But he will pick up 4 more points on that last scoring pass. 3 points total for the Crash Test Brummies. 13 total for Southern Discomfort. A
timeout has been called by Southern Discomfort Roller Derby. The crowd well behind the Crash Test Brummies here at the Walker Dome for the Men's European Cup here taking place this whole weekend. Don't forget to keep yourselves tuned in. Our next game up is Tide and Fear versus New Wheeled Order. That will be coming up at the end, after the end of this game. Only just under 6 minutes left remaining in this game. 406 Southern Discomfort, 34 to the Brummies. I can say this is going to be Southern Discomfort's win. But the Brummies have done an absolute sterling job. I don't think we can state how much that they've come in as a last-minute entry to this tournament. They have their own tournament that they're hosting later on in the year because they weren't expecting to be here at this tournament. So I think they've done a sterling job to get themselves fired up in time for the Men's European Cup. Chuck Rogers taking the star for the Crash Test Brummies. He's facing up against Nanaki for Southern Discomfort Roller Derby. And Nanaki trying to take that outside line, pushing up against a solid 2-wall there of the Brummies at the front. Truck Rogers forced out, forced around by Rolling Stoner and Flat Track Bully, looking for a space, but everywhere he goes, the space disappears. Nanaki picks up a cut track penalty in the meantime, so it is a power jam for Truck Rogers, who darts his way through that inside line, picking up lead jammer for the Crash Test Brummies. Nanaki just sitting down, in the penalty box now.
Flat Track Bully tried to catch him, but didn't even come close. Truck Rogers now on his first scoring pass. Flat Track Bully makes first contact. He slips past Bully and Rolling Stoner, only to run into Samdroid and Spectral Aberration, who put up a fierce fight, and Spectral Aberration knocks Truck Rogers out of bounds. He's going to recycle, and Spectral Aberration bashing past Rex Tangle to recycle even further. Jam ends 4 points for the Crash Test Brummies. And that drops us below 5 minutes left in the game.
38 points now to the Crash Test Brummies, 406 to SDRD. Let me just tell you a little bit more about the official merchandise sponsors of the Men's European Cup, Queens of the Sin Bin. They provide all your custom derby clothing, whether you're a skater, official or fan. Big thank you from the announcers, as they've provided our attire here today as well. Queens of the Sin Bin can meet your demands. Meet them at queensofthesinbin.com.
Carnage starting out on the power jam, gets knocked out by Shrooms. And there goes Nanaki, the jammer for Southern Discomfort, out of the penalty box. Driving his way on his initial pass. Potential lead jammer still up for grabs. But no, no pass, no penalty means he is not lead jammer. Door still open for Carnage if he can get through. But here comes Nanaki on his first scoring pass. Carnage, the Brummies jammer, knocked out of bounds, recycles out of turn 1. Nanaki putting up a fight, getting around Ali Gately and Rex Merriment to complete his first scoring pass. A grand slam for Southern Discomfort. Brummies jammer Carnage still on his initial pass. Knocked down, scrambles back up and gets slammed by a shoulder from Sutton Impact. And he does the same to Rex Merriment, who gets a forearm penalty. So Sutton Impact out of the picture. And Carnage gets knocked by a shoulder from Shrooms, but manages to stay in bounds. But all for nothing, does not get around into scoring position. 10 points for Southern Discomfort, as they call the jam.
Carnage managed to call it just in time so that there weren't any points there scored by Southern Discomfort. Again, don't forget to check out another one of our fantastic sponsors, Double Threat Skates. It's a roller derby skate shop based in central London, run by 2 London roller girls, Kristen Lee and Gorgasm, 2 fantastic roller girls. Check them out, www.doublethreatsskates.co.uk. We're back on with the action. Rex Tangle for the Crash Test Brummies up against Monsieur Furio, who darts around the outside, picking up lead jammer for Southern Discomfort roller derby. Rex Tangle not far out, about half a lap behind him.
About a half a lap separating the 2 jammers. Monsieur Furio closing down on the pack on his first scoring pass. Gets past Riley Coyote and he does get all 4 points for Southern Discomfort.
We're down to the last 2.5 minutes of this game. 420 points to SDRD, 38 to Crash Test Brummies. The Brummies doing a sterling job. I cannot say how much they will enjoy these points that they've managed to put on the board. Carnage, the top jammer so far for the Brummies, facing up against Ballistic Whistle, who is one of the Rydell sponsored skaters here at the tournament today.
Carnage versus Ballistic Whistle. Carnage up the outside, gets out first for lead jammer. Ballistic Whistle dodges around Truck Rogers, runs into Alec Gately, repeated shoulder checks, and he finally is able to leverage his way past. Gets out his initial pass, about a quarter lap behind Carnage, and closing the distance rapidly. Sutton Impact catches Carnage just as he hits the pack, sends him spinning, but Carnage calling off the jam does secure a 1-0 victory in this jam.
1.5 minutes left remaining in this game. Some fantastic work here. The Brummies not giving up this fight, fighting to the very end. They're playing for their pride now. They're trying to get as many points as they can, as many leads that they can, and stop SDRD getting any more points on that board. Rex Merriment up against Reaper, and straight away.
Sneaky star pass. There goes Riley Coyote. He is the jammer, but Reaper, the lead, calls off the jam.
That one works really well if you can maintain the opposition jammer in the pack. Enough time for your new jammer to get round, but very sneakily done there by the Crash Test Brummies. SDRD were not expecting that one bit. And back on track, we've got Carnage up against Monsieur Furio.
Only less than, oh. There it goes. There were 30 seconds left in the game at the start of this jam. So most likely the final jam remains to be seen. But Mr. Furio with, I believe they call that a seal club of a shoulder into Carnage, knocking him out of bounds.
Carnage using the latest rules amendment, stating that he could actually skate alongside where the NSOs are to make sure he benefited from that. But Monsieur Furio has broken first. He's not lead jammer. He didn't pass 2 skaters there. 2 skaters not passed. So he's not lead jammer.
Carnage knocked out of bounds on the inside, has to recycle. Can still potentially get lead jammer. But no longer. It is a cut track, so that ends regulation time. Just about a little over a minute remaining in the jam, but this will be the final jam, and it will run to completion.
Monsieur Furio darting up that inside line there, using almost the same skateboarding technique Carnage has been using to get through and past that 3-wall of Crash Test Brummies. He's now up against Captain Cageman, Cagey.
And Red, White, and Bruise and Illbilly forming a 2-wall as Captain Cageman drops back to bridge.
Illbilly
with a shoulder pile driver. Not Mr. Furio knocked down at their scramble back. And now up the outside, almost does get caught by Illbilly, but just rides the edge of the line to stay inbound.
He definitely used his toe stops to hold himself in on that rope there. There's no other way he could have stayed in on that corner. And we have Carnage back on track.
Carnage coming out of the penalty box, completes his initial pass. 4 more points for Mr. Furio, bringing a total to 19 so far in the jam. 8 seconds left in the jam. Carnage into the pack.
That was amazing.
That was a leap for life. Comes back in on one toe stop, spins around, avoids touching out of bounds. He earned that 4 points, and everyone in the stadium recognized it, and as well, I even saw some Southern Discomfort players clapping for him.
Absolutely, that was an unbelievable end there to the Crash Test Brummies. They have massive, massive smiles on their faces, even with this 10-1 defeat here, 439-43, the unofficial score. We will confirm when they're obviously when they are the official scores, but this Crash Test Brummies. Bright yellow, big grinning smiles on their faces. You'd almost think they'd won this game.
Very happy to be here at all. Not even expecting to come to this tournament until just a very short notice.
Indeed. They're taking the place of the Inhuman League here this weekend. They will be playing later on today. And thank you very much for tuning in. Keep watching for Tyne and Fear versus Manchester's New World Order, the next game on your screens.